My dear fellow listeners and viewers, good evening once again, and welcome to another edition of Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat is a Canadian initiative with a unique impact. There are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on a regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers Digital Cable, for those of you who have the Rogers Digital box. And of course, we also live stream our chit chat here. So do take the opportunity to share our page. We ask you to stay with us if you'd like to learn a thing or two. However, if you're looking for an opportunity to vent out negativity, this is not for you. Tonight, we have two brilliant brains, and they join me here tonight because we will be chit-chatting about a very interesting topic, a one that is probably needed more now than ever. It's a little bit broad as well too, but we'll be talking about the importance of having a temple in our community, the purpose of it, what purpose it serves, some of the challenges we have had, some of the challenges we are still having, and what is it that we can do together to make improvement as we go along, so to speak, and everything else in between. So to both of you, Pandit Dave, welcome to the show. Manoj G, welcome to the show all the way from Suriname. And we have, of course, Pandit Dave from the USA, born Guyanese. So both of you, welcome. So what I'm going to let you guys do, we are going to start off with Manoj. Take a minute or so, reintroduce yourself. I've had both of you on the show here. I've had great feedback from our viewers and listeners, which is a beautiful thing. But take a minute or so, reintroduce yourself, because it is not uncommon for us to have new listeners and viewers. So take it away, reintroduce yourself. It's freestyle. And then we're going to go to Pandit Dave, and then we're going to get right into the interesting topic.
Thank you. Thank you, Narine Dat ji. Viewers and listeners, my name is Manoj Daryanani. I live in Suriname. I'm a business consultant and a social worker. My passion is Indian music. I sing bhajans. And I teach music. I teach vocal music to all age groups. I've been doing that for the last 3 decades now. And that's part of my experience. I love meeting people, and I love discussing social issues, and to help out in any which way I can contribute to make things easier for the community. I guess we can start with that, Narendra.
Excellent. And that's a beautiful thing, all right? That's what we want to do, accomplish here tonight, make things easier for the people. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Dave. I know we've had you recently, but it's always nice to reintroduce yourself. And one thing that we have learned over the years is that it is always best to have the guests introduce themselves, so that way I don't have to be blamed for anything. So take it away and introduce yourself to us.
Thank you very much. So once again, I'm Pandit Dave Ramrattan, originally born and bred in Guyana and currently resides in the US of A. In this field of Panditai, I've been doing this for approximately 12 years. And also, as my fellow panelists would have said, I'm also in the field of social work as well, trying to help by colluding and being in cohesion with each other so that we can help our society and the ills of it. Have a family, and basically I'm trying to wrap up as quickly as possible. So in a nutshell, Panditai for 12 years, former principal of a high school, and as the program unfolds, we're going to continue. Thank you.
Awesome, excellent. So tonight I have to say it's a very unique program because all of us have something in common. I can tell you that for sure. So we are here for a reason. And it takes special people to kind of wanting to not only offer their knowledge, but to really speak openly about what matters, and because not everybody can do this. I'm not talking about they having the willpower and having and do it with no issue. A lot of people will be okay to speak behind the scene kind of thing, but you guys are actually speaking openly, and a lot of people will be watching, if not now, at some point. And so whatever you share here tonight will be very, very impactful. I can tell you that for sure. So we're going to get right into it. And I mean, I grew up knowing that there is a mandir in my community. It was there. I started to go there. I love it. I enjoy it. I've made my mark during the time when I was there. I've assisted the priests and so on at that time. And it was such of a a joy for me to go there. Like because I was going there for a purpose, by the way. I wanted to find that spiritual power kind of thing, right? And so it really worked for me. As I become more mature and so on, I started to become more open and more understanding and more inclusive and so on. But I practice Hinduism the best way I know how and so on. And we're going to leave that. But if I was to ask both of you openly, what's the function, what's the purpose of having a temple in the community? I'm assuming it has to be there for a reason. It's not going to be there just for show, right? And we can start off with the person who probably has the most experience in this. And we're going to start off with Manoj Ji, if that's okay. We really want to hear from you. And take your time. We are not competing with anybody here. We just want to get your knowledge, your understanding, because whatever you share can really change things for all of us.
Thank you, Narine Dat Ji. Let me start by saying that whatever I say today is on behalf of myself, on behalf of Manoj. I do not belong to any particular organization or don't patronize any particular person or any cult or any religion in particular. Let me just say one thing, that as a Hindu, as a Sanatan Hindu, I think the necessity of having a temple in a community or a country or it's actually for a biggest social benefit. And basically what I think is it all started with, we believe that God is formless. So I'm sure Pandji agrees with me that, the universal fact still remains that God is formless. And when we started looking at things like a formless God, then looking back, thousands of years ago, I'm sure our ancient rishis and all those religious leaders put together, they must have come up with something like, to give a form to a person, because there's a lot of people amongst us who think, formless. So what do I worship? Whom do I worship? So I think to give that kind of a form, they created different pictures of the Lord. The Lord is one, the universal fact still remains. But I think they created pictures of one Lord in different ways. And Hinduism describes different qualities of people and different qualities that the Lord possesses. So they tried to symbolize it with each different form. They put that together, they gave it the form of a picture or a statue or any piece of carved stone that they then put in a place, in a formal altar, and called it a temple, a place of worship. So I think to focus, once we go into a temple, a sacred place like that with a congregation, or even if we go alone, the idea was actually to sit down there and concentrate, because even during those times, there was a lot of things that people could lose their concentration at home. So praying essentially was instilled in a child as any other quality, and then it was brought up to that thing that we need to pray. So I think the essence of praying and associating it to a place of worship is where I think the temple came up. That's my belief personally. I hand you over to Panditji. I say, let me hear what Panditji has to say, please.
Go ahead. Yeah. Thank you, Manoj Ji. Go ahead, Dave. Dave, Pandit Dave. There. Now, let me hear your take on it.
So indeed, it is a very ticklish question in terms of what is the purpose of the mandirs in our society and the role that it plays. And listen to my dear brother there, he spoke of experiences. And we all know that mandir, right? And I'm going to probably go more by the books. And mandir in itself is considered, man means mind, there means association. So mind association. And when he would have consecrated that, with the murtis and all these things to bring forth your concentration a bit more. In our society today, it is very, very pivotal with the house of worship, with mandirs, with temples, because it is an institution of learning. From there, once it is considered and consecrated that it is an institution of learning, other than satiating our sensual, our senses, then it takes us deeper to the gratification of our soul as well. So the mandir in itself is where it is not only there for worship, but it is an institution for you to learn holistically.
Beautiful.
All right. Anything else you want to add to that, to the existence of temple? Or you want me to move on to the next question?
So with the existence of temples, as I would have said that it is an institution of learning, again, quote and unquote. So with it being such an institution, not only religiously, and that is why today in our society, it plays a more important role, not only on a religious platform, but more on a social platform as well as an educational platform, because that is where a lot of values and ethics are instilled in our children as they nurture, as they grow.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
if I may add,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Nandaji,
you go ahead.
Sure.
I think, Manoj, beautiful, fantastic explanation. If I may add, I think one more very essential aspect of having a temple is to, as you said, as an institution and to educate us further. I think, there's this little aspect of religion and it is associated with spirituality. So I think when we speak of religion, we speak of rituals, pujas
Yes.
and rituals and the fire ceremony, the havans and the yajnas and things like that. We add that and then we bring out a part of spirituality when we express, when we tell a tale from yesteryears and we associate it to the deities. I think Panditji will agree with me when we quote the epics, and you said quote unquote, when we quote the epics, for example, or we quote our Srimad Bhagavad Gita, then we quote the Lord and his words. And I think that portion of spirituality attached. And once we are at a sacred place like a temple is, then as I said, I would like to correct myself, like to rephrase and say, it's not only that prayer, but it's the amount of concentration that we build up in that environment. So that atmosphere changes the entire outlook towards a power above us. Please.
Sure. All right. And keep in mind, the two of you can jump in anytime here. I'm just kind of here to kind of steer the boat here, and so I'm listening very keenly because I was like the idea to learn, like it's who I am really. So I like the fact that the two of you are actually I'm going back and forth here. So that is a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
Keep in mind though, and we're going to get to the challenges and so on later on. Keep in mind though that when it comes to things like mandir, doesn't matter how beautiful it is, not everybody goes to it, and we know that. So what would be some of the advantages, and this could be just based on your own personal experience and so on, what would be some of the advantages going to a place like a temple? Because both of you, I mean, like, you're very much involved in it. So share with us some advantages. Maybe people are not aware of it.
What is it?
So some of the advantages of going attending the mandir. So this is where I'm going to share my personal experience before I unfold further. So as I would have said earlier, that the mandir plays a role not only for sensual gratification, and when I talk about that, it is broad-based by many of time, and my dear brother on the other side, by singing bhajan, pravachan, and all of these things. What it does is that it satisfies the craving of our senses. When we sing, when we're in tune of the music and all of these things in the program that is unfolding, then that satisfies all of our senses. But then, again, from my experience, it goes further. From satisfying our senses, now we need soul gratification. And being soul gratification is where now it creates that vacuum, that opening, that yearning, that when that program is over, that you're just anticipating for when the next session is going to be there. So now you move from sense gratification to soul gratification. And if I'm to just, and this is my take on it, is that religious, and I'm going to, emphasize a bit on what my brother would have said. Religion is where it is being practiced by the rituals and all of these things. But for me, as an individual, spirituality is what we experience. And what we experience, that is something that is so profound that nobody can take that away from us. So it's like you're experiencing the direct connection of God,
Absolutely.
of the Supreme. That is spirituality because you are in that eternal bliss. And that's what we call Satchit Ananda. You know, you're always immersed in that eternal bliss. So you're moving through from sense gratification to Atma, soul gratification, and now you become one with God. And that has been the advantage for me as an individual growing up at Mandir, singing and taking part in everything that the Mandir was ordained to. It led me to move from one stage to another, that eventually today I can proudly say that I'm able to experience that Lord within by connecting through Brahmgyan divine knowledge.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I'm thinking whether I need to talk more or I should, keep quiet and listen to you. Well, I would like to just say a few words more. A beautiful explanation, fantastic, Panditji. Thank you very very much. I think also one more thing, as you said, that bliss that you just mentioned, the connection, that spirituality that brings that connection. Going one step backwards. When I said when we made a form, a picture, or a carving of stone or whatever we did, and we made a murti, we assigned the murti to the temple, all with His grace again. But after that, I think that murti became the connection, because when we sat down and we prayed and we looked at it, and when we committed ourselves to some basic rituals in that holy place, then we connected with that murti, with that form of God. And I think that became the bridge between Atma and Paramatma. So as you said it so well, I cannot impose on those words in any which way. You are definitely a scholar in this. And I can say that I think, the Atma and Paramatma connection, which is then fulfilled, and putting in my personal experience, I would like to say that I have also grown up in a very, very religious / spiritual family with that kind of upbringing, and have been singing the hymns of the Lord, the bhajans, right from my 7th year, and it's been almost 50 years now, and it's been a wonderful experience. This is not the idea to sell Hinduism to anybody, but it's just the experience of how each Atma interacts with the Paramatma. And actually we're bridging the distance with each day, with each minute of meditation, with each minute of gratitude. And that's what is getting us further in life.
All right.
Please.
Thank you so much to both of you. I do appreciate. I do do know that. My dear fellow listeners and viewers, for those of you who are watching and listening, for those of you who may have just tuned in, you're listening and watching Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Keep in mind, though, that there are a few different ways to listen to us. You can listen to us on the regular dial, that's the radio, 102.7 CKMS FM. You can listen to us on Rogers digital cable, for those of you who have the Rogers digital box on channel 946, that is. And of course, we also live stream or chit chat here. So do take the opportunity to share a page. I know this is not a sexy topic, and it's not an entertainment kind of one, but it is a very educational one. And this is the kind of conversation we must continuously promote, because if we don't educate our people, we are going to left behind. And we are very lucky that we have two very educated people who are lending us their time, sharing us their knowledge. And if there's one way to respect them, you do take the opportunity to share a page. I can assure you that everything that they're going to share here is good for daytime TV. I can tell you that much for sure. I wanted to ask you a follow-up question, though, and you may have already touched on it, though, while you were answering the previous question, and then we're going to get to some interesting pieces, and I'm sure when we get there, there might be a lot of responses from people and to the viewers and so on. Feel free to respectfully, make your comments or make any sort of suggestion or things of that kind as you are listening to what these two guests are saying. As I said to both of you, you may have already touched on this, but what will be the one or two personal gain that you have gotten really by going to the Mandir, especially both of you for that matter, because you've been in it for a long time. It worked for you in that sense. You've made that spiritual connection, all of that. Is there any, a personal gain kind of thing? You may have touched on, touched on it already by talking about the advantages, but is there anything else you would like to add then in terms of personal gain for your own self? Whether that be a closer connection to God, which you already kind of touched. If not, then we are going to move on to the next question, because I know this is a similar question to the first one.
Panditji?
So when we talk about gain, in terms of gaining, we must lose something. That's the first thing. In order to gain, we must lose. So if I'm to say personally, what I would have gained over the years of growing up attending temple, being a part and parcel of everything that goes on, is that I was able to lose, let's say, the vices that I would have had. I'm not saying today that I'm perfect, but what I'm saying is that if it was 100%, eventually from that 100%, it would have dropped considerably. Right? So I would have lost that in order to gain wisdom, in order to gain education, in order to gain knowledge. And on that fall, basically, if I'm to look at it from a materialistic perspective, no, I have not gained, and I can say this in all caps, I have not gained materially, because that is not the purpose of attending mandirs, to be in the sandhya. Basically, what the mandir helped me to do is to eradicate and help me to find my true purpose in life.
Excellent.
Beautiful.
Excellent, yeah.
Well, I can say something. I said, Panditji just explained gain, and he used the word materialism. It's a fantastic connection. Let me say that, because gain is such a broad word. Yep. Such a broad meaning, such a broad perspective that we can look at the word gain. It has only 4 letters in it, and we can describe it with so many words put together. And I think materialistically, I don't know if anybody would want to define it as gain by attending to the temple or attending a service at the temple. My personal feeling is I wouldn't have been here today doing this interview had I not been educated in the temple. Had I not been a part of those services. I am here today because I have gained that knowledge, and I have become a very patient person. And as respected Panditji just said, vices are unending. I can't say either that I'm a perfect human being, but patience and the strength to endure in life, because we all have our set of challenges. Each one has a set of challenges. I do a little bit of reading here and there, and the Sikh Guru Nanak once preached to his disciples, and he said, Nanak Dukhiya Sab Sansar. There's not a single human being who hasn't had an encounter with sorrow or with grief. So we have all had our challenges, and it has made me a very patient human being, to the time that a lot of people walk up to me and say, how do you sustain this kind of a situation you are in? Not naming any situations, but then when you meet people, and when people know you deeply, when they know you inside out, then they throw a question at you, and that's when you realize that it's His grace that has actually guided you through this maze of life. And that's what I should say I have gained. I have learned to endure, I have sustained, and I have become a patient human being.
Excellent. Thank you so much to both of you. And I mean, that's what I was getting at, by the way, when I talk about again, obviously, right? So I think both of you have kind of nailed it so nicely. You kind of clarify it as well, too, for sure. I guess I don't think anybody, intentionally starts to go to the mandir for any sort of personal gain. If they do, I don't think they are on the right track, but that's a whole different show there. The reality, though, is that, and it happens everywhere, the reality is that there are lots of challenges, when it comes to the Mandir, lots of different challenges. And one of the challenges, and this, I know it's another broad question here, and then you can respond how you see fit. But one of the challenges is that we don't have enough people going to the Mandirs. I can tell you that. Like, even when I visited Guyana a few years ago, I was excited to visit the Mandir again. It's, it was such a beautiful thing to kind of go back. But my expectation was different than what I've seen. That place was empty. I still felt that, that connection there. And for me, when I think of God, I always think of that particular Murti at the Sigrapur Mandir, because I grew up at that Mandir. So in my head, mentally, visually, if I think of God, that's what God looks like. And I mean, I have had the opportunity to visit different Mandirs. I've had the opportunity to visit, different, temples and so on. I've had also the opportunity to speak with a lot of different people from different sides, people who are, running mandirs, and people who would like to go but not going. For example, I was speaking with a young gentleman recently. His mom is very engaged, going to the mandir, sings and all of that. Another family member goes and and so on. And so I questioned him, because we have that kind of relationship. I said to him, why is it that you do not go? And then he said to me that, he's afraid that he's going to be judged. And I'm a social worker. People share a lot of different things with me. And there was another situation where there's a young girl. She was invited to go to the Mandir, and this here is in Canada. And she said she wouldn't go. And then when we questioned her, I said, why she wouldn't go? She said that she doesn't have the appropriate clothing, meaning like the fancy, shiny type of Indian clothing to go, and things of that kind. So those were things I was hearing and so on. But I would like to hear from both of you some of the challenges you have known of, some of the things you're seeing. And then before the end of the program, we're going to talk about ways as to how we can find ways to close that gap. So we can start off with Pandit Dave this time. And again, I know it's a little bit of a broad question, but respond to it as how you see fit.
So, okay. So initially we would have talked about the purpose of the Mandir. Today, the challenges that face the Mandir is most of it's empty. You hardly have people attending the Mandirs, and there are particular reasons as to, and you would have listed two of such scenarios as to why people doesn't attend. Now, that brings me to, and I know this is going to be a bit of a conflict, right? With what I'm going to say here, but this is from my personal experience of what goes on. I'm not pinpointing anybody, or I'm not pointing fingers. Now, from a Mandir perspective, and I say this, that is initially that the Mandir is considered an institution of learning. So let's look at it from the top. I only hope I don't take too much time there. So let's look at it from the top. The head of the temple, we're looking at the executive, because 99% of the Mandir has executives. Everybody has a social life. Everybody has every facets of life that it entails. I'm saying here, and this is again what we can do, because when you question, and I as an individual, I myself would have questioned persons as to why they don't come to the temple, why they don't attend. Many of times you will hear that if the executives are living a life of duality, and I'll break that down, then why should I go? Because first and foremost, if the executive are living such a life and they are not gaining anything, then if I go, will it make me different? Will it make me better? That's one. So when I talk about a life of duality, I'm saying this is that as a pandit, we have a life, we have a family life, a social life, we have every aspect of it. But as a pandit, everybody in society sees us as a spiritual leader, as a leader out there. Let's say, for instance, one day we decided that we're going to just take the coat off and put on a shirt and tie, and we walk into the bar. I'm just using this as an
Yeah,
example.
yes, absolutely.
Are we walking to the bar? The first thing people is going to say, is that a pundit? That he's preaching the word of God and this is what he's doing. Similarly, if the pundits are being placed on such a pedestal, then the executive who runs the affairs of the mandir, they also need to be conscious of their actions while in office, quote and unquote. I'm not saying that they should not live, their social life and what have you, but you need to be cognizant of the fact that many people after the pandits or the head of the temple, the spiritual leader, then is the executive and the congregation comes last. So it's a threefold and it must go in a systematic way. So if the executive now can work together in such a way, in a fathomable way, then definitely you're going to find that, you know what, it will start to encourage people. Because why? From the executive, you have their immediate families. So if they're leading the temple the way it should, then they will now encourage their families to come. Their families will encourage others to come. And eventually you're going to have the entire Gao. Let's look at it 20, 25, 30 years back. That's what used to happen. The neighbors leaving, they're asking you, are you sending your kids to there? Are you coming to Mandir? Let's go. Or they're going to send a message to you. But let's say today, I'm living such a life, and then I'm saying to you, let us go to Mandir. You'll be like, what is the purpose of you going to Mandir when you come out, you go back to the same square one? So that is one of the biggest challenges. So from the executive, it starts from there. The pandits, the executive, then the congregation. We must be open-minded. As a pandit, one, you must be professional. Two, you must be confidential. And when I talk about being confidential, a lot of people get carried away with this confidentiality word. A lot of people tell yourself that, okay, as a pandit, I'll listen to your problem, but yet at the same time, how much are we guiding somebody when they encounter this problem? And that is why I say, as an institution of learning, one, let us use the scripture. And this is another question that is being posed today by a lot of our people because they are more educated. How can we use the scripture to help to counter the ills of our society? Now, as a pandit, how can you take the scripture and help your congregation, help your people? And this is where professionalism, this is where the psychological aspect, and this is where the social aspect of your life comes in. You're there in that position to serve. Probably you would have chosen it, but for me as a pandit, I've been asked that question up 10 times. What caused you to become a pandit? And a day like today, I still cannot give a rigid explanation as to what caused me to become a pandit. But it is the divine grace of God. So I'm saying this, if all of us, because there's so many challenges, if as a pandit we can start dealing with it professionally, there are many persons who sits in our congregation that goes through so much of trauma, that goes through so much of issues, so much of problems. Other than listening to 2 hours of bhajans and chantings and messages, touch on the ills of our society. When people realize that now, you know what, you're getting somewhere, and connect our scriptures to that of what's happening, they come with the antidote now. Then they realize that, you know what, you start to open up their avenues. And that is where you're going to start getting people coming back. You have many expertises in the mandir. A lot of professional persons utilize their talent, utilize their wisdom, not only religiously, but also socially as well. Thank you. I only hope I haven't spoken too much.
No. I mean, it's your time here. There's no need to rush anything here. So we don't have to finish at 7 or anything. So you don't have to worry about that. We are finished because this is important. So there's no need for us to rush it. I like the fact that you kind of set it straight from the beginning. You are just sharing, how you see things, because you are, active and so on. And so to the people who are watching and listening, do know that none of our guests, including myself, we're not here to kind of point fingers at anybody. We are addressing things as we see them. And if and maybe there's an opportunity for you to pick up one or two things. Maybe there's an opportunity also for you to share one or two things as well too. And I like what Panadev said though, and I mean, if I was to summarize it in a different way, I think the first place to start in that mirror, to look in the mirror, really
Definitely.
start here. I think that's what he's trying to say in a different way too. And sometimes we are not realizing it, because sometimes I think that we are working in a blind spot, right? We are not knowingly, in some cases, we are thinking everything is all perfect, everything's perfect, this is the way it has been, and we just continue on not realizing things have changed. But I would love to hear from Manoj ji. Take it away, don't rush it. It's good knowledge, very important, because if we don't address it, things can easily slip through the cracks here. Take it away.
Thank you, Narine Dat Sookram. Let me start by addressing one of the points you just mentioned, is a look into the mirror. Once in a while, I do the motivational speech, and one of my favorite lines that I ended up, writing for myself 2 decades ago is, I always say, now I quote myself, I say, a mirror is the most expensive object in the world. It's the most expensive object because it's the most expensive gift to give to somebody. And a lot of people understand what I say, and some of them really don't. And then I sit down, after the session, I sit down and try to explain to them what I meant. So as you said, a mirror is very, very vital to all of us. It plays a pivotal part. And then I moved to what the respected Panditji just said, and I'll start with the duality subject. It's a great subject, what you touched, and we all experience it one way or the other. And I'm glad you took it up right from the top. I will take it from there for a split second, and I will then shift my entire attention. I will not speak about the metal. I will not speak about the Pandits as of this moment, but I will start with duality. There's this one thing that my dad taught me about duality. I asked this question when I was, I think, 10 or 11 years old. And I said, when I go for satsang, you take me for satsang, and people are chanting the name of the Lord, and some people are sitting and talking to each other and making noise at the top of their voices. So what's this? So he said, forget about that. I said, but those people are the owners of that place. They are the executive committee of the temple. So how is it going to work? And he told me one thing. He said, don't focus on those people. If they're engaged in duality, don't focus on them. It's not between you and them. It's between you and him. So when he said those words, I held on to those words. I clutched onto that, and I said, it's very true. And I use those as my guidelines. As I always tell the kids when I teach bhajans, I rip the bhajans absolutely open, and I divide it, put in each word, I explain the meaning. And as respected Panditji put another point here, made it very clear that we need to address social issues and connect what is from the epics or what is in our holy scriptures. So that connection is very, very vital. I take it at the lowest point. I'm not a learned Pandit at all. I'm just another human being, just another social worker. And I tell the kids when I teach the bhajans, I say, you know what? Let me explain the bhajan to you. And if there are names in the bhajans of all the deities, I connect that story with a social issue. I give them live examples, and I make them understand what the bhajan, what the teaching actually means. So if I have to explain a piece of Kabir, or if I have to explain a piece of Tulsidas, I would tell them that this piece, this poem, actually, this two-liner means this, and this is what it applies to. So giving live examples to kids and to adults will make it easier, and that might possibly help bridge that gap and not only recite from the scriptures alone, as Panditji said, as we have to connect, make that connection with them. And lastly, I would like to say that moving down to the devotees, to the people who are attending, why it's becoming very, very slack right now. Because I have noticed there's a lot of youngsters who actually do not know much of the Indian language. A lot of people don't understand even basic Hindi, let alone Sanskrit and Avadi and things that I use, words that I use in the ancient scriptures of ours. So there are a lot of kids and youngsters who do not speak Hindi or do not understand what's being said to the congregation. And those language barriers that are created, they go back empty-handed from the temple. And when they go back, then there's a conflict at home. And eventually that conflict ends up into becoming, I ain't going back no more. So, and then as you put it in that you asked a couple of people, they said they're being judged. Somebody said, I don't have the right clothing. You know, all these social factors put together, I mean, they all have solutions. And I think I will move the spotlight from these social factors right into every home. And I would say, let's focus as parents. Let's give our children the correct upbringing, you know, the appropriate upbringing that they require. When we teach them to respect elders, I asked a child once and I said, who's this? And he said, this is my father. And I said, who told you? He said, he said. I said, no, he doesn't have to say it. You can't believe it. He said, why? I said, your mother has to tell you that. So I made the child understand that the mother has to tell you this is your father. And like the mother has to say, this is your father, the mother and father have to introduce us to God. They have the prime responsibility towards their children to introduce them to the power above us. I think anybody under the sun would agree with me until they have other things to say. But I think it's very important that they understand that this is very vital. This is very vital. It all brings back things that once we educate our children at home and tell them what is God, what is the necessity of attending to a service in a temple, what do certain rituals mean, and what does certain recitation of mantras mean. And mantras necessarily mean creating those vibrations around us to understand what's happening and to bring ourselves to peace. I think put that together and that whole combo, that entire concoction has to be given to children from the parents. So I think this is what I would like to say, that they have to have things at home and socially also, and above all, the atmosphere in which the children are growing up, their friends circle, their family. It's the entire, it's like putting up foundations. And these are the foundations of a good child growing up. And I'm not saying that if a child doesn't go to temple, it's not a good child. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying part of it, part of the Hindu education as following a gurukul or following a deity or following certain rituals and prayers, it all depends upon what is given and what is accepted by the child. That's from my side.
If I'm to add,
Sure.
you know, a beautiful statement to that, or a
Yes,
quote,
Manoj.
you know, it is said that, and again, my brother, you know, you would have emphasized a lot on the parents and the parental role and guidance. It is said that our mothers brings us into this world. She passes us to our father.
Yes.
And our father confers us into the hands of the guru who takes us to God.
Absolutely.
So the role of the parents, and again, it is so pivotal. And that is why, you know, today we're seeing so much of haphazardness in our society, because it all starts with our parents. As mothers and fathers, yesteryear, they were so proud of giving birth to their kids, nurturing them, bringing them into this world. No matter what little they had, they ensured that they would have fulfilled whatever they could have, the mandated. And today, that was, let's say years back, it was the duties of the parents to protect that child, to nurture that child. Today, some of our parents, instead of becoming their duty, it is their responsibility. And they need to draw that line between what their duties are and what their responsibilities are. Towards your family, you have a duty. It is your duty to provide for them, to educate them, to nurture them, and to make them into who you want them to be. Right? Now, when you're asked of the question to honor your mother, honor your father, and again, a lot of our children ask this question today. A lot of our young people, why? Because they're more educated. How can I honor my parents when the only thing they would have done for me was giving birth? When nothing else they would have done? How do we answer such a question? So we say, you know, at the end of it, use our scriptures as guide, as the guide to this. And if I'm to use in a simple synopsis, Lord Krishna, he was born to one parent, but then he was nurtured and brought up by another. But yet at the same time, he never disrespected or dishonored his parent Vasudeva and Devaki. He had them in the utmost respect. And such our scriptures can be used to teach our people today that this was what from the beginning of time, it is here now, and it will always be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Panditji. If I may add to that, you know, when I start my prayers and I start my bhajans, we do a little Saraswati mantra because we're going to start to pray. And then I tell them, I said, you know, I connect with them in this way. I said, you know, when we start at the temple, we say, Tvameva Mata Chavita Tvameva. So we tell the Lord, you are my mother and you are my father and you are my brother and you are my friend. And I tell the children, because they some of them can't recite it because they can't pronounce it. And I said, don't think about it as Sanskrit. Don't think about it as Hindi. Write it in any language that you want to write, but read it and try to understand what it means, because only when you understand, you'll be able to connect. Yeah. So that's the vital thing, which should actually come from home. And as you so rightly said, the guru, you know, the guru, and that's the whole thing. When you hand over, in the olden times, we used to have the Gurukul, and the Gurukul used to be that at a certain age, the child would be introduced to the guru, and the guru would take over and educate that child, and not only what you call academics, but also spirituality, yes, and religion and archery and friendship, and instill all those lovely, you know, what you call values. And those values are what are actually missing or diminishing now, which is leading to current social issues.
True.
All right. Thanks to both of you to respond to that question. Very much appreciated. Just to add a little bit here. I mean, when I look at it, I'm sure both of you will agree that there's a lot of social issues that needs to be dealt with in order for us to get, you know, to where we need to be in terms of, you know, having parents, you know, managing and encouraging kids, and, you know, to go to places like temple and so on. Because if the parents, you know, or if an individual is not mentally there, then, you know, how can they actually, you know, if they can manage themselves, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Like, how can they manage out of that? Not that it's not an issue. I don't know whose issue is that, but maybe y'all have a role to play. I want to comment very quickly. Pandit Dev mentioned something very interesting. And that's where the judging comes in, because we as human beings, we do a lot of judging. So you mentioned about people, well, you know, and there's no question, if you were to go to the bar, yes, people will judge you just like I said, well, definitely. I just saw him on the Chit Chat show talking about the importance of prayers and so on, and I know I see him at the bar. And that's something that we as human beings, we have to be mindful of, not doing as much judging, because it could be that Pandit Dev just got a call from somebody to have a chat with somebody who's having a difficult time there. So maybe what he has decided to do is to ignore everybody else in terms of the judging and go to help that person. So because sometimes people do that. I do that. I will go to where the person is at. So I don't worry about who's going to judge me, who wouldn't judge me, and so on. So let's say there's somebody is in that rum shop, and if that person need that help there, I will go there. I wouldn't worry and say, oh my God, so people will see me here. Like, what will they think? I don't care about that part. I'll share this quick thing. When I visit Guyana, I was at the Mandir, enjoyed, but I have to tell you, there were about 4 young guys, bare feet. The skin was very dirty. They came from the back dam. I mean, if you see them, you don't pay a penny for them, and so I sat down with them and I guess it's not was a bar. It's like a regular, they call it cake shop in Ghana, but like a regular a place. But they sell beer as well too. Those guys, they were having the beer, but I actually sat down with those guys on the table because, and I have to tell you, that was the best conversation I've had with those fella, better than coming from the Mandir. And I gave them, right? I'm not, I'm just saying, so sometimes we have to be careful with that. And I can assure you, people probably say that too. Then Ryan, he is with his kurta, and he's with these guys, right? But and all of you, both of you will agree with me because both of you are knowledgeable people. People will do all of that, but it's amazing when people start to share their story. Like one guy, I cannot when the person share everything and he wants to go to the mandir, he wants to better his life, he has lots of dreams and goals, and because of us as human beings, we start to judge and we start to do all of that, we compete with each other, things of that kind. Those fellas, they don't want to kind of be there because when we go to the mandir and so on, right, we want to feel a sense of home and belonging and so on. So you also brought up a good point there that that the management, they have a responsibility too, right? And I'm sure
Definitely.
you agree with me, right? So I will not say more about that, but the judging piece, I kind of get it, but it's but at this I'm repeating this because we have to be mindful with that, because if for some reason Pandit Dave or other guests is in an environment that's not so normal for community leaders and so on, maybe think about it first as to why they're there. Maybe they're trying to get people out of there. I don't know the thing, right? So I just thought I'd add that. You guys nail it there. This next question might be a little bit similar, to what you've already said, because it's also related here in its own way here. But so what will be the one thing, or why is it that we don't have why is it that people don't have the interest actually to go? And I know you have touched on it in different ways, but if you want to be a little bit more specific, now is the time to do it. Like, why is it that there's no interest? Because I mean, if you do, let's say if you do an event and and let's say a chutney event or something like that, people will be all over it, and things of that kind. And people will pay to go. Mandir usually is free, things of that kind, and and you really have to push people to go there. Why is it that there's not much interest, in your opinion? If you want to add anything, I know you've touched on it a little bit in different ways. And any one of you can take it.
So this brings me to one of my opening remarks as to sense gratification and soul gratification. Let's say, for instance, you would have sung your bhajan today, and to you, when you finish singing it, you feel that, you know what, you would have sung well. Person would have complimented you. But mentally and in your heart, you're telling yourself that, you know what, I could have done this better. Or tomorrow, if I sing the same bhajan, I'm going to nail it. It's going to be the best. Then tomorrow you sing it, and then again, that eagerness, that craving comes in. No, I still have not given it my best. Similarly, our mandirs, our programs, other than satiating our senses for that couple of hours, it must create that vacuum, that soul that is eager, that is yearning for the connection at all times to be with the Lord. And that is where the connection of the Atma and Paramatma comes in. So, okay, Panditji would have given his pravachan, but you're going to start to rationalize, should I apply to my life? In what spheres does it affect? How can I use whatever he would have preached to make myself better? And you're going to start rationalizing and start to apply the message that he would have given to see which aspect of your life it entails. As you leave there, you should have that yearning that, okay, the message that was given tonight has made me realize that, you know what? I am lacking in certain aspects indirectly. And now you're going to start trying to use that message that was given to start bettering yourself on a conscious level as an individual. And when you start that, it creates that eagerness again, because now you want to hear more from Panditji. You want to listen more to the bhajan that was sung, because the bhajans and all of this would have created my mindset to start to absorb the information that is going to be given. So when it gets to our soul, when it gets to our atma, now you're going to be in such a position that, you know what, it creates that avenue that I always want to come, no matter if it rains, no matter if it suns, no matter if it snows, no matter what the weather is, because we have the fallacy many of times, oh, it's going to rain, I'm not going to go to Mandir tonight. All right, so it moves from the sense level to the soul, to the atma level. And when that is created, and that is why, again, and I throw the ball on myself, again, I'm not pointing fingers to anybody. That is why, as pundits, as leaders, the onus is on us to create that awareness, that eagerness, and that emptiness within an individual, so that it causes them, it creates them, and it makes them yearn to come back, so that they can continue to absorb more. If we don't do it as pundits, then it's going to be difficult for us to attract the people for coming. I rest my thoughts.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you.
That's
Kind of really take me into the final question I have, but you take it away, Manojji. Go ahead and respond to that as well.
yes. Yes, I would like to say one thing, one or two actually, to what Panditji just said. You know, it's what he said so rightly. You know, why do movies sell? Why do films sell? You know, we throw a trailer, they make a big movie, they throw a trailer, they attract people. The whole idea is, as respected Panditji said, the attraction needs to be created. That soul satisfaction has to be brought in, because you make it so attractive, you make it so interesting for a devotee that he or she is constantly living with that thought that I need to go back to this temple or that particular temple on this particular day when the services are being run. So when they look forward to it, we need to make that. That is the commitment that we all have, to make it as in, come back. And each time they leave the temple, they go with the thought to be continued, and not say discontinued and I ain't coming back. So that connection has to be made with the soul, and that's very vital. And coming back to the judging, it's actually a kind of victimization. We all suffer it at least once in our life. And if you are sorry, at a particular position in the community or in the society, then there's this judging is a part of social control, because all eyes on you. Wherever you go, people look. You're at place A, you're being looked at. You're at place B, you're being gawked at. You're at place C, they stare at you. And then one guy messages the other messages the third, and it goes on. And it becomes, oh, I saw Manoj here, I saw Manoj there. And once I will give you a personal thing, what Panditji just said, going to a bar, I'm using a different subject here. I brought Actually, I had a bhajan class at home, and a student stayed back until she was picked up. In the meantime, some friends came over, and I sat them down, and they met the student, and they left after half an hour. And in their presence, the student also left. A few months later, my daughter came back from Europe, and they said, "Hey, did you meet your dad?" So she said, "Yes." She said, "When you went back home, did you see that there was a lady living with him?" So you see the judging. So where's the question of the lady living with the father? So my daughter came back and she said, "Is there a lady in this house?" So I said, "Not that I know of." So you see the judging that goes on. Everybody is victimized by this kind of stuff, and the social control is being exercised because of these uh, close set of thoughts and very, what you call, narrow-minded thoughts. And that's going to take time to move out. And we just need to evolve. We just need to evolve and help other people evolve with our soul satisfactory teachings. That's it.
So if I can add to that, and I love the word social control, and it brings me back to the word of duality as well. So when I would have spoken about the life of duality, is that it is understandable if from time to time, once in a while, yes, if there's an emergency that you go into certain spheres, but if it is a constant, that is where the big problem comes in. If it's a constant that, okay, Sunday morning is service and Saturday night I'm out hanging out, I have to go to service Sunday morning, and it's a constant thing, then that determines my character and it tells who I am.
Yeah.
So, the thing is with social control, once you are in certain position in life, it comes to you as a self-analysis.
Absolutely.
Who am I? What is my position? What is expected of me of being in such a position? If my tenure is up after 2 years, then go back to all that you was. But if you would have, and then my brother, you would have used the word, but then evolving. But if you would have evolved as an individual after 2 years in such a position, then you're not going to go back into the murky waters.
No.
You're not. Because
Absolutely.
now you would have bettered yourself after 2 years of self-control, of social control. Today,
Absolutely.
you're in a better position to help yourself as well as helping others along with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Agreed.
Sure. Excellent. Anything else you would like to add, Manoj ji, or
No,
not
I'm
to
good.
this,
I'm
right?
good. I'm
Excellent.
good. I
Good.
learned a lot.
I hope I'm not dominating the program.
Not at
No,
all.
no,
Not at
no, no,
all.
no. Both of you are doing well, and you're doing it accordingly, so that's fine. I like the fact that both of you jump in, whenever there was a need, of course. But there's one last thing more, and again, you both may have said it in between, but this is an opportunity now to maybe share what you think that we need, not necessarily management only, because management can. When I say management, I'm speaking directly, to the manager people I'm here, because as you know, most people, or at least all the ones that I know, they don't get paid, meaning that they are just volunteer their time, they're devotees, this is what they do. They have life, their own kind of life, so to speak. Things change over the years. Children may came along the way, grandchildren, people get sick, loss of a spouse, and extra mental stress, especially now with the pandemic situation and so on. So it can be overwhelming for sure, for anybody for that matter, to run the man, to try to have the finance. For some reason, there's always that squeeze of us, the one to really give to so that these things can function, right? Because these organizations, they need the money as well, to things of that kind. It's hard to keep asking the same people all the time, for sponsorship or to contribute and all of those things. So it is hard on the people managing. And for those of you who are watching, listening, both of my guests here tonight understand, they know that they're part of it, so they get it. And so they might say, that they really don't have the time for all of what both of you have said. What do you say to that? What can I do as an outsider? I'm not necessarily an outsider, but I'm not attached. I'm kind of like Manoj ji. I'm not necessarily attached to a particular organization. I'm as open as you can be. If I see a need to address anything, or close some gap, it is irrelevant to me if the person is Hindu or even believe in what I believe in. Where the person was born and raised, it does not matter to me. What can we do, though? I want to hear from both of you. And maybe whatever you say here will be helpful to the people who are watching. Maybe they never thought of it because they just get fed up of doing it for so many years and years. I've actually seen people separate and stop going to mandirs for a variety of different reasons. I've seen it in Guyana. I've seen it here. All of that. That's a whole different topic too. But what can we do? Like, what more can I do? Like, I'm doing my bits and pieces. People are watching. They're doing their bits and pieces. Mandirs are still, empty. I was speaking with some friends and family. They made a little contribution here and there, but things still have to keep going. So I want to hear from you.
Panditji, after you.
So what else can we do? So I'm going to start by paraphrasing. Mandirs and the worshipping of mandirs should not be an objective cause, but a subjective one. If we can rationalize and realize that, you know what, objective is when we're going there for a sole purpose. And when this is answered or we would have achieved this, then literally we're going to stop going. That's because that has been our objective. But if it is a subjective reason, it means that we are always going to go there because we are eager to learn. So, and Sanatana Vaidya Dharma is considered a scientific religion because everything is testable and everything is scientific by nature because we are all evolving. Now, by saying that, what else can we do? We would have talked about social norms, the ills of our society. And this is just suggestion, right? As temples, if it's possible, that can probably adopt such. Many mandirs have a lot of spaces. As the pandits, or even if somebody from the executive is trained socially to deal with these issues, they can have an office set up at the temple where at least they can put aside one afternoon in the week that can help persons who are having social issues to come in and deal with you one-on-one. And that is where initially I would have said confidentiality, where persons from the same temple that you are at, you have an office set up that they can come in and they can have a one-on-one with you, discuss their issues, their problems, because many of times our people need a shoulder to lean on.
I'm a good fit for that. Continue.
So you set a small space, a little office where, if not a pandit, but somebody from the mandir has the expertise to help dealing with these issues. That's one. Two, and it's a pity and it's a sad state that today we're seeing that our women are fighting for equality when in our mandir we are preaching that the female or the goddesses are the number one because we give adorations to them first, and they are in the form of our women folk. Then, if you look at it, our women folk, I'm generalizing here, I'm not pointing fingers, but yet at the same time, one, they're fighting for equality. Two, you see that they're in a lot of domestic disputes, domestic violence and all of these things. Now at the temple, and that is where I would have used, it is an institution of learning. How can we eradicate the ills of our society with the use of the temple. And this is where the expertise of our people comes in. Be trained in certain fields. As a leader, the onus is on you. Have an office set up. Help to deal with the social norms one by one. Instead of person having to come or have to go to other places seeking help, you be the help. You be the one that can assist. I'm not saying that we're going to be the one putting the food on their table every single day of the week. But what I'm saying is that you can show them a way that they can achieve their food by themselves. People want, there's so many avenues. People giving assistance to mandirs and all these things. Transparency, that's a big thing. If I give something to the mandir, I want to know how my money is spent. I want to know what you do with my money. And the bottom line is, if everything is transparent, one, I give one time. Two, I'm going to give again because I know exactly what would have happened on the previous occasion. But then, if I didn't know what happened when I would have given the first time, then I'm not going to give again. And these are the way people think, and we can't stop them from thinking like this. Now, if we can do everything in a cohesive, transparent, and collective manner by bridging the gap between ourselves, our people, and use the mandir as a faculty to institute, to educate, and to enlighten our people, then definitely the mandir will be playing its role in society, and the pandits, the people, and everyone collectively will also be fulfilling their mandate as well.
All right. Thank you
Right.
so much for that, Pandadev. Go ahead, Manoj.
Well, I'll take the cue from there and I'll say, let's play the modern day missionary.
Definitely.
Right? Let's play the modern day missionary, and let's not talk about religion alone,
Yep.
but address social issues and ills of the society, and that's what we all do. And I'm already in it, and I'm sure you're doing the same thing, Panditji, as you just rightly said. We are all counseling people one way or the other. When people can't reach us, we try to reach them.
Yes.
And one day a friend of mine said, when you put it so rightly, you said, we are not going to put food on that table, for all the days and for all the week long. But my friend put it rightly also in a different way. He made me understand. He said, Manoj, you want to help somebody, give him something today. But after a week or so, give him a few plants and gift him some garden tools. Let him learn to grow his food. Let him learn to do what he has to do. And let him learn to be independent. So this counseling and this little drops that we can add can always fill up that bucket, turning it into an ocean of knowledge. And using the temple as an institution, and we bow down, we enter. The first thing we do when we enter the temple is we strike the bell and we bow down and we touch the floor. We say, we pay our reverence to Dharti Ma, and we say we're entering a solemn, a sacred area of yours. And that's where we pick up all the knowledge. That's where Saraswati is. And that's where we take back home what we are given as a package. So let's make use of this package deal of all the good words that respected Panditji and the entire faculty of Pandits put it in, all the priests put together for us as a package deal, and let's bring it back home, but put it into practice. That's the main thing I would like to suggest to everybody, because faith moves mountains. Faith moves mountains, and let's live with that. Let's live with that, and let's agree to that. I rest my case, sir.
All right, excellent. I like the garden tool idea, that's for sure. And it's so true, though. Both of you have nailed it there. I mean, sure enough, you and I, we can help. That's one reason when, people are continuously reaching out and so on for the same purpose. I know that if you're doing the same thing over and over, you're not getting the result that you're hoping for, then obviously you have to try to change things around. So both of you have nailed it, and so I'm hoping that people will gain something from it. And again, I want to remind people that we are here because we see a need, and these two gentlemen, very knowledgeable people, they were willing, to come on here to share their knowledge. I can assure you one thing, Exactly what they said is correct. They're not here to point any fingers. None of us are perfect. I've never met any perfect people in my life. There's always room for improvement. All of us are learning, every day and so on. And I can tell you, I've learned a few things. And I like to have the reminder, because sometimes I myself, I'm telling people one thing, but am I doing it? I guess that's what the question is, right? And so it's nice to have these kinds of reminder. I would like both of you to know that I enjoy this. I know that these kinds of things, like people would normally do, and so on, but somebody has to do it. And both of you willingly, came here to share. You saw the need. I know things have changed, with this pandemic and so on, but we need more of these kinds of conversation, without any question. All the other kinds is easy for us to have access to. People easily follow along them, because the world, we live in a different kind of world, but at the same time, we have to have people like yourself to kind of steer the boat a little bit different, in a different direction, in a good kind of direction. And do know that I appreciate so much. I can see the joy when both of you were sharing your knowledge here. Such of a joy, because both of you have a purpose. There's no question about it. You have a purpose, and you are in the right spot to share that purpose, by the way. And do know that, right?
Yes, sir.
We actually, I should share that with both of you here. We have learned over the years as well too, and though it is very difficult to have people to listen to educational pieces like what we're doing here, we were able to manage to find a way to do it, not through YouTube. And I have to say that we are close to hit 1 million. And so within the less than 10 days, we are going to hit that number. And I have to say, that was not our intention. The intention was to get started to make an impact and so on. And we know it's extremely difficult to do, and we know that it is easy to fall off too. But but at the same time, we could not discontinue doing what we do, because we know that there's a need, right? I can easily switch to do different kind of program because we are not looking for numbers and all of those kinds of things. We are looking to make an impact. But I'm very pleased to share with both of you, that we are soon to hit 1 million. And it was never a target or anything. We are over, the last time we checked was over close to 900,000. And nothing to do with YouTube and so on. We are going to get to that YouTube thing at some point, but we find a way to educate the people. that was the thing, right? And so what I'm trying to say to you is that both of you will be on that platform, and we're going to share more, with people, because we need to go along that path. But I appreciate both of you so much. Dave, such of a knowledgeable person. Manoj, I know you wanted to do this for a long time, and thank you, by the way, for reaching out, to address this. And you reached out at the right place, because I know there is a need. All of us have something in common. I know Dave as well. You have such of a busy life, just like everybody else. You have kid and all of that too, but that did not hold you back. And I appreciate all of that. Do know that for sure. Like, I'm forever grateful. But we'll make good use of this chit chat here. Like, so this is not the end of it here when we're done, that it is done. We are going to make sure that we, utilize this to make a positive impact to people from all corners, so do know that. So final thing you guys want to say, do know that this is a freestyle. If you forget something and you haven't had a chance, now is the time to kind of say it. But I mean, I'm hoping that at some point, do know the invitation is open for you guys as well, because we need the more educational piece. It's easy for us to do the other ones. I mean, we are very open in what we do here. Like I always, and I mean, me being in social work, and I only learned recently, Manoj, that you also do social work. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I've always been passionate about this thing. And so I put a lot of effort to make that switch, because I never, when I was younger, I never kind of say that one day I want to be this, one day I want to be that. It was never in me, but I know that I want to be the best version of myself. That I knew for sure. But I kind of do things as they come along in terms of need. So if I see a need, I will kind of address that need, because I realize that somebody has to get started. That's the main thing. Once you get started, then people kind of follow. And if people don't follow along, they will kind of create their own, which is okay too, because you and I cannot change the whole world. Because I used to have issue with that at first, but I'm a little bit more mature now. I'm used to saying, why are they doing what I'm doing? But at the same time, I cannot change the world. So it is okay. Anything you guys want to say, do know that you can say it now. But I just usually use the last few minutes to kind of say a few things and show my appreciation. I think I've done it well. I hope so.
Thank you. Thank you. Panditji, after you.
So you're really putting me on the spot tonight.
No. No. I ain't doing that.
So again, so in a nutshell, our topic basically tonight is the objective of demand years in our society, and how we can get people to come and attend. So I'm going to leave a beautiful quote, and we all know of the GPS system to get from one place to another. So I'm going to leave the GPS system with both of you as well as our viewers, and the G represents our guru. The G represents our guru. That once we want to always remain in communion with God, our guru is the primordial medium for us to be in connection at all times. So the G represents our guru. The P represents our preachers, whether pundits, whatever, once you're a preacher of any nature. So from the guru, then to the preachers. And after the preachers, what do they use? The scriptures. So the scriptures must be disseminated to the people from a holistic point of view by the preachers who are always in connection with the guru. And then on the spiritual platform, we have our GPS system that connects our Atma with Paramatma, and our life will be fulfilled. Thank you.
So anytime
Beautiful.
I use my GPS now, I'll be thinking of you. So
Good.
Go ahead, Manoj.
The difference would be the GPS of your car will give you one voice, and Panditji's GPS will have three voices. Yes. Yes, I would like to just end with a very, very short 60-second all about commitment, discipline, about praying. And there were these two good friends, and they used to always compete with each other. Who's going to pray better? Who can reach the Lord faster? And there was a mountain at a hilltop. There was this beautiful temple of Lord Shiva, and they used to compete every evening to who's going to go and light the lamp over there. And there was this guy who always won, who always reached there first. Friend A, let's say friend A reached there first. And one day, what happened? There was a hurricane. It was raining so bad, and this man says to himself, this friend A says, I do this every day, and if I don't do this today, nothing's going to happen. Look at that rain. I ain't getting drenched. I ain't going to that hilltop for today. I'll go back tomorrow. But the one who was competing with him, he realized that nothing is happening. Hurricane or no hurricane, I must still go and try to light that lamp before friend A comes up. So he goes there and he lights the lamp. So friend B lights the lamp, and there appears the Lord, and he grants him the boons of his life. And this is just a simple story of saying, it's all about faith, it's all about commitment, it's all about your discipline. So it's not about attending the temple alone or going for a service alone. Anything you do in life, please be disciplined. Please keep to your commitments. And with all those commitments, you will be able to reach the goals that you really desire. That's it.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you both. If any one of you would like to stay back to have a chit chat after we finish the airing here, you're more than welcome to do so. If not, that is understandable, because both of you have spent over an hour and a half. It's amazing when you're having fun, time goes by so fast. I didn't realize that we are going to chit chat for an hour and a half, but
very fast.
It was very well worth it. But I admire both of you. Their uniqueness in both of you. There's no question about that. And so it's just perfect that both of you have, decided to spend your time. This is a busy weekend, by the way, for many people. So a lot of people spend it in interesting ways. And the fact that you're here talking about all the important things, it's a blessing there from, for sure. There's no question about it. There's a reason why both of you are here. So my dear fellow listeners and viewers, as we are officially approaching the end of tonight's program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for tuning in to Let's Chit Chat with Narine Dat. Please remember to tune in to us again next time, where we're going to have another special guest. And that is tomorrow, actually. So you want to tune in for that. We will welcome you to join us for sure. On behalf of myself and our two intelligent guests here tonight, both Dave, Ramrattan, and Manoj Ji, all of us would like to join together and wish you a great today and even a better tomorrow. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.